throughout history, the thread of human progress has been woven through communication, from the simple exchange of signals to the complex networks of today. Each advancement has propelled us forward. Yet, it was the emergence of the internet that heralded a transformation unlike any other. The internet, initially conceived as an information superhighway, emerged as a disruptive force, reshaping the very fabric of society. With the birth of personal computers, the landscape of communication began to shift, bringing technology into the homes of millions.
The internet all started back in the 1960s with this ambitious project called ARPANET. The folks behind it had this big idea of creating a decentralized network to help military and academic folks communicate better. It was a real game changer, because it paved the way for what we have today. And by the 1970s, microprocessors burst onto the scene, revolutionizing the landscape of computing. They miniaturized computing power like never before. Around the 1980s, specifically in 1986, the NSTA network was launched, with backing from none other than the National Science Foundation. Now, this launch wasn't just any ordinary event. It laid the very groundwork for widespread connectivity, setting the stage for the commercialization of the internet. Fiber optic cables essentially became the backbone of this digital revolution. It was a game changer, really fueling the internet's journey from a mere academic and military tool to the global phenomenon we see today.
The advent of web browsers in 1993 transformed the internet from a labyrinth of data into an interconnected web of information. Hypertext, linking pages with a click, wove a digital tapestry that continues to expand to this day.
By the late 1990s, we saw a significant shift in the internet landscape. It was dominated by giants such as AOL, Yahoo, Microsoft, and Google, each of them exerting considerable influence and essentially shaping the digital frontier as we know it today. Microsoft and Google, in particular, emerged as true powerhouses during this time. Alongside them stood companies like Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, all of which played pivotal roles in molding the digital landscape into what it is today. These companies didn't just sit idly by. Oh no, they revolutionized how we interact with technology. From operating systems to search engines, they introduced innovations that paved the way for what we now call a digital revolution. It's quite remarkable when you think about it, all the ways in which our lives have been transformed by the products and services these companies have brought to the table.
Social media platforms like Facebook transformed the internet into a dynamic space for connection and expression, while search engines like Google became the gateways to vast realms of information. Meanwhile, Apple's iconic devices and Amazon's expansive marketplace redefined how we engage with technology and consume content. With the advent of smartphones and high-speed networks, the internet became ubiquitous, accompanying us wherever we ventured. Apps like Twitter and Facebook became staples of our digital diet, offering instant access to a world of information and connection. The vision of the semantic web, championed by Tim Berners-Lee, promised a future where data would be interconnected and intelligently organized our digital utopia where information flowed seamlessly. Today's empires, in their pursuit of universal states, have driven technological advancements that extend human senses and facilitate centralized control over distant territories. In the vast landscape of our digital age, where information flows freely and connections are made instantaneously, we find ourselves navigating a complex ecosystem. From the palm of our hands to the screens that surround us, our digital lives have become intertwined with reality. As multimedia convergence has become a reality, the internet entered its third decade as a fully interactive medium.
You see, when we talk about media, it's not just about making people aware of things. It's about making things happen. Media aren't passive bystanders in our lives. They actively shape our actions and behaviors. They have this incredible power to influence us directly, to make us think, feel, and ultimately, to make us act. It's not just about broadcasting information. It's about creating a whole environment, a whole atmosphere that can move people to do all sorts of things. When we look back at the evolution of media, it's fascinating to see just how much of an impact it's had on our history. Take the printing press, for example. It didn't just revolutionize how information was disseminated. it also played a significant role in fostering nationalism. Suddenly, people could access printed materials in their own language, which helped to create a sense of unity and identity among communities. So you see, media evolution isn't just about technological advancements. It's about the profound historical impact these changes have had on society as a whole. It's about shaping the way we think, the way we interact with each other, and ultimately, the course of our history.
Lyman Bryson's notion that technology is explicitness underscores how technology spells out different forms of knowledge. Mechanization amplifies and specializes forms of knowledge, while media act as active metaphors translating experience into new forms.
When we start talking about electric technology, we're talking about something much bigger, a complete transformation of our physical world into information systems. I'm talking about everything from the devices we hold in our hands to the cities we live in. But here's the thing, this transformation isn't just happening on the outside. It's also happening in our minds. We're seeing a shift in how we interact with technology. It's not just about external consensus anymore. It's also about our own private consciousness. And that's a pretty big deal because it signals a fundamental change in the way we relate to the world around us.
New media and technologies are likened to collective surgery on society, altering perceptions and sensory ratios. Automation is a product of the electric age, blurring the boundaries between culture and technology, work and leisure.
Automation is shaking things up in more ways than one. It's not just about robots taking over jobs. It's also about how we learn and work. That's a big deal because it's changing the way we think about education, work, and even how society as a whole is organized.
In industry, automation revolutionizes production processes, moving towards interconnected systems enabled by electricity. In the digital age, the intersection of technology, automation, and the body has given rise to the concept of the Internet of Bodies.
So here's the thing about the Internet of Bodies, it's all about how our digital world is starting to blend with our physical selves. And that's not just changing how we see ourselves. It's also affecting society as a whole. Think about it, you've got these automated systems making decisions in government, but a lot of them are developed by private companies. They're making these decisions without much oversight from the people. And then there's predictive analytics. Now you might think they're supposed to be unbiased, right? But turns out, they're just moving bias around instead of getting rid of it. And that's causing all sorts of problems, like making it harder to hold people accountable and reinforcing prejudices.
Digital representations offer opportunities for self-expression and identity construction, but also raise concerns about self and societal perception. Today, the internet serves as a collectively institutionalized site construction of knowledge through language and practice, influencing how topics are talked about, reasoned about, and put into practice.
In the digital economy, users are boiled down to what we call calculable persons. Basically, every click, like, and share leaves a digital trail that companies use to analyze and categorize us. It's like we're constantly being measured and evaluated based on our online activities, which ends up reinforcing stereotypes and biases. The norms and expectations we see online can influence our actions and interactions offline, kind of like an invisible hand guiding our behavior.
Reflecting on historical concerns about human domination and dehumanization, we see parallels between early computer terminology and historic systems of oppression. A paradigm shift is observable today, transitioning from physical control methods to the subtler realm of social control through big data and prescriptive analytics.
Throughout history, structures like chattel slavery, Jim Crow laws, and racial regulations have acted as tools for surveillance and social control, spanning generations. These systems not only enforced discrimination, but also monitored and regulated societal actions. Moreover, the devaluation of human labor and production underscores a common trend: the integration of human activity into larger systems of governance and standardization. This trend illustrates how labor becomes subsumed into mechanisms of control and regulation over time. In modern times, the rise of big data has amplified this surveillance network. Through digital transactions, big data meticulously captures and interprets human behavior, manipulating it for both commercial interests and social control. This complex system of data collection and analysis intricately maps human behavior, ultimately influencing societal norms for financial gain and control.
It all began with a spark of innovation, a dream of interconnectedness. In the late 20th century, the internet emerged as a revolutionary tool, promising to unite the world in a global exchange of ideas and information. But as the internet expanded, so too did its complexities and challenges. From concerns about privacy and cybersecurity to the spread of misinformation and fake news, the digital landscape became a battleground of ideas and ideologies. Yet, as our lives became increasingly intertwined with technology, our perception of reality shifted. As we reflect on the history of the internet, it's important to remember that what we see and experience online is often just a reflection of our own perceptions and biases. In this new world, reality is a malleable construct, shaped by those who control the flow of information. Perhaps the truth lies not in what we see, but in how we choose to interpret it. The internet is not just a tool. It's a reflection of our collective consciousness, our desires, our fears, shaped by algorithms and driven by data.